Well, moments ago, we heard Brian Windhorst say, how is it possible that Miles Turner is now a Milwaukee Buck? And here's how we have our answer. The Milwaukee Bucks are waiving Damian Lillard and stretching the remaining $113 million on his contract in order to acquire one Miles Turner.
So, that just happened. Damian Lillard is no longer a Milwaukee Buck, which isn't the most surprising news in the world. But in more surprising news, Damian Lillard is not a member of any NBA team after the Bucks decided to waive him.
All right, I'm gonna take a deep breath here. This is mortgaging your mortgage to buy a sports car. I just want to put into context here, the largest buyout in the history of the NBA is $31 million. It's Bison Dele in 2000. Something that hasn't happened for 25 years is a reason for that. And so that was $31 million. This is $113 million that the Bucks are now going to put on their cap over the next 5 years.
You heard Brian Windhorst. This is the most unprecedented move in NBA history. If you thought the Luka Doncic trade was shocking, or if you thought the Paul George and Kawhi Leonard move was shocking, just purely based on history, this is the most unprecedented move we have ever seen. Because as you just heard, it is not only extremely uncommon to waive and stretch contracts, those contracts are normally 10, maybe $20 million at a stretch, and you have to deal with $4 or $5 million less flexibility for a few years. I'm sure people might remember Timofey Mozgov and his contract with the Magic that was stretched at $22 million over 4 years, about 5.5 per year. Well, how about a contract 5 times as big? The Bucks are essentially paying the price of a starting level NBA player just to get rid of Damian Lillard. The same price they are paying for Kyle Kuzma, who is their third best player. That's how much they're paying just to have Damian Lillard off the team. So when I say it's unprecedented, that is why it is unprecedented. And well, they're doing it for one reason, and one reason only, to sign Miles Turner.
Halliburton to Turner, Turner with the slam!
Which means entering the 2026 NBA season, this is what the Milwaukee Bucks will look like. Not exactly the strongest team I have ever seen, but I have one thing to say. Put all your money on Giannis Antetokounmpo to win the MVP. Just trust me, we are about to see something special. We are about to see something historic from Giannis. I know the Chris Haynes report about Giannis being upset with the move, but it is worth keeping in mind Chris Haynes and Damian Lillard are effectively best friends. There is not a Damian Lillard news story that is reported which does not involve Chris Haynes. So if he has a chance to make a team who did Damian Lillard quote unquote wrong, then he's going to take that chance. I'm not saying he's lying, that's all I'm saying. But the Bucks wouldn't make this move either without Giannis knowing or without them being 99% confident he won't ask for a trade this year. Because honestly, whilst a lot of people say this is a lack of loyalty from Milwaukee to Dame, which might be true, although he's still getting paid and now gets to spend time with his family in Portland, so I don't really understand why people are upset for Dame, and he also has a chance to sign for money on top of that in a city he prefers to stay with no stress on his timeline to recover. I get the loyalty aspect in sports, trust me, and I get ownership can be absolutely dirty, but I don't know why you would be upset for Dame in this situation. Honestly, it is perfect. But the real loyalty being shown here is from the Milwaukee Bucks to Giannis. They are potentially cooking their franchise for the foreseeable future. Not potentially, they are, but they are doing it with one thing in mind, to give Giannis a shot, just a glimmer of a chance at winning. Because obviously the reason they did this was because Dame had no chance of returning this year. Now they bring in an upgrade at the center position in place of Brook Lopez, who they lost. They re-signed Gary Trent Jr. on a friendly contract, which I think is a fantastic deal. Kevin Porter Jr., look, I'm not about to tell you this is some great team, but one thing they have done is bring in shooting. Gary Harris, Gary Trent Jr., AJ Green, Miles Turner, re-signing Bobby to also help stretch the floor, and this is all I'm expecting from the Bucks. A spaced floor and the ball in Giannis's hands every single possession, which is effectively what we saw when Dame missed games last year, with Giannis averaging 31, 11, and 8 in 16 games without Dame last season. You want to know why I think he's going to win MVP? Because that's going to be the kind of production he'll put up all year, and it might even go to a different level. Think 2017 Russell Westbrook. Think about a guy with 40% usage rate who can get to the rim at will, who can find his teammates at will, who's going to have a spaced floor and one thing on his mind: scoring every single possession. And if scoring isn't available, playmaking every single possession. The ball is going to be in the hands of Giannis all the time. And whether this will lead to them winning 55 games, that's going to be hard because of his team, but it's going to lead to some of the nastiest performances I think we've ever seen, and one of the greatest statistical seasons ever. I am saying that right now. And I mentioned it before, but the 8 assists. If there is one part of Giannis's game that has been underrated his entire career, it's his playmaking. Everyone knows about his gravity, but just his actual passing ability, his ability to find plays in the pocket, to find plays under the rim, to find shooters, is incredibly underrated. And we're going to see Giannis get the opportunity to show absolutely everything when it comes to his offensive arsenal, because he is going to be the point guard, the point forward, the center, everything on this team. I mean, just look at Giannis on this play. Feign as though he's going for the step back midi, and at the last second with Turner falling asleep, a no-look pass to Portis wide open in the corner for 3. And it's not just about him finding open shooters, which obviously he can do in his sleep. The most underrated part of Giannis's passing is his interior passing. For a guy his size, his ability to wrap passes around bigs and find plays in the dunker's spot at the speed he attacks the rim, it's special. Just look at him here, where he attacks Mathurin, draws Bryant, and then the wraparound pass to Bobby underneath for the layup. And it makes sense. He's going at full speed like a freight train, forcing the big man to help over all the time, which means someone is going to be unguarded underneath the rim in the dunker spot. And speaking to that, just the obvious part of his playmaking, which doesn't even have to do with him throwing incredible dimes, is just his gravity. Even looking at his Game 5 performance against the Pacers, where he recorded a 30-20-13 game. Almost all of those assists resulted in 3-pointers, and so often it was just a result of the defense being petrified of Giannis. Just like here, where he brings it up in transition. You have Turner, Nesmith, and Nembhard forming a wall, so Giannis just kicks it to Green, and with Nesmith having to rotate out, he just pump fakes him and knocks it down. He is going to create these kind of opportunities just from having the ball in his hands, just from being on the floor. Those are the kind of numbers he put up against the eventual finalists without Damian Lillard on the floor. Now he has an even better spacing big man next to him and a couple of additional shooters that could also aid. And to know what you're thinking, does any of this matter if the Bucks only win 35 games? Well, another reason the Bucks might have made this move is because there's a genuine chance for them to still be a top 4 or 5 team in the East. This chance is just because of how good Giannis is. When you look at the Celtics without Jason Tatum, the Pacers without Tyrese, and now Miles Turner, the Knicks, who are supposed to be one of the best teams, still don't even have a head coach, the Pistons are young. Look, there are some solid teams in the East, but this is not the Western Conference. Giannis in himself, with enough good play from the likes of Kuzma and Turner, that's a team that could be a 4th or 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. And if he manages to do that with the kind of numbers he can put up, he's going to win MVP. This is an unprecedented move, but it's going to lead to an unprecedented season.